Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Morning, Glenn.
Hey, what's up, my brother? My coffee drinking, loving brother.
I know. You know what I was just thinking about? We haven't referenced in a long time.
What, that you wish I took some cold medicine or something?
Our number one listener, my mom. We haven't referenced her for a while, right?
Oh, my gosh, we haven't.
Yeah, we used to always say, at least we got one download last week, and thanks, Mom, And
that's how we started out.
I know, yeah. We haven't referenced her, but yeah, we've...
Always thanks, Mom.
I wonder, you wonder who's listening. You wonder because we don't have the demographic behind the digit. It's just one download. And we've got some great feedback, and podcast at Sober.Coffee is a great way to get a hold of us. We've gotten some great feedback.
Hey, full transparency, we do this as 12-step work is our mission. We don't have our fingers on. We do know we have an international audience. It's amazing. I think 85% of our audience is in the United States. All the rest is Bangladesh, and
we're big in Bangladesh, man.
UK, and but we don't.
When we do our world tour, we should go to Bangladesh.
Yeah, and shout out to Care Addiction Treatment Centers
who helps us out with
in Geneva. They help us out with web stuff, with graphics, financially. They pay for studio time, but man, this is not a money grabbing venture for us at all.
No.
We're probably 20% up the scale. There's probably 80% more we can do production and blah blah blah. But we're busy, right? So you get what you get.
I want to be busy this morning. I'm super excited. I want to jump in today. Okay,
let's jump in. Let's dive in. What are we doing?
Table for three.
Love it.
I know, right? And super excited today because again, as I said a couple of weeks ago, the sober universe is kind of small and defined, right? But man, it's getting bigger every day. There's more stuff happening. There's more music coming out.
Now, is that because people are finding their voice?
I think so. But you take a look at like celebrities. Maybe it's just because I drive a yellow car. I notice the yellow cars all the way around, right? But I keep hearing these songs, and I'm like, that is a recovery song. And then I go do a little research on the band or on the singer, and sure enough, he's in recovery, And so I'm hearing music. I'm hearing, there's great books, nonfiction books that are coming out. We had a guy on a couple of weeks ago that, talked about the spiritual principles of AA and how to live by them. And there's all these great resources. But today we're going to carve into a little niche here, which I didn't even know existed a month ago, and now I'm a huge fan. So we have Will Thatcher joining us this morning.
Hey, Will, welcome.
Hey, Will, how you doing, man?
I'm good, thanks, guys. Good to be here.
Oh, I'm super stoked to have him. So Will wrote a book, and I'm not going to step all over it, man, because
that means he's the smartest one in the room.
He is the smartest one in the book. Wrote a book called Killing Hurt, and that's kind of a funny sentence structure, but once you get the book and once you get to know the characters, it all makes sense. But author of Killing Hurt, and we thought maybe share him in for coffee and give people a chance to get to know Will a little bit better and find out about the book. So
that's awesome. Welcome, Will.
Yeah. So what I got to ask you, I always wanted to write like a novel, right? I just did. And like so far, I'm like I don't even have 106 words, produced yet in my Word document. I think my word count's 95 on my novel. You produced a whole novel. How long have you aspired to do this? Is this your first one? What's the story?
Well, I wrote a couple of novels, one in college. It was like a senior project. Mm-hmm. And then I wrote another one in my early 20s. I actually reread that recently. It was awful.
Don't review it online, Will. Leave that alone.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you kept a journal, in your 20s and you went back and read it. It's like that level of embarrassing. But then life took over, and career and family and all that stuff, and basically, I've been sober for about 5.5 years now. And I have always kept a journal. It's been part of, that's the way I do my 10th step, is I just kind of sit down and take inventory and write down everything that I'm thinking about every night, so I sort of keep track of all the different, themes and ideas, related to my recovery. So I have a lot of stuff in there, that I think about. And I was at the diner with my sponsor and a couple of other guys after a meeting one night. And my sponsor was talking about how he was taking these acting classes. He's not an actor, obviously. He's a real estate guy, but I was kind of jealous listening to this because I was like, wow, it's so nice to have a creative outlet. Like at our stage of life. He's got a couple of kids and a career, and I was like, man, that sounds great. And then as I was going home, I was thinking about it, and I was, I have a creative outlet. That's something that I do. I should just I should turn my ideas into a novel. And I literally just sat down, started writing it, and it was so enjoyable. I really had a lot of this already kind of worked out in my head, because I just kind of think that way. And really, it just took me about 3 months to crank out the first draft.
Wow, that's incredible. Awesome. Because there's so many complex storylines and characters, and you gotta, it kept moving very, very rapidly, and I don't know how that boggles my brain that you had that concept and then turned it into some kind of production in that short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, so the outline kind of wrote itself, to be honest, because I had a handful of themes that were important to me at that point that I knew I wanted to write about. And then I had a few good characters that were pretty real to me. And I kind of started out by sitting down and saying, okay, let's figure out who these people are, and what they're going through and what their story is. And when I combined that with the themes, boom, the outline sort of populated itself. The structure of how I went back and forth and, got the points, got them to where I needed to get them was a little bit trickier. But, the skeleton of the thing came together nice and easily.
Right. That's excellent. And so was it cathartic for you? And are you reflected in any of the characters?
I think to some degree I'm reflected in all the characters.
I
mean, look, you sit down in a meeting, right? And, some guy's up there, telling his story, even if his circumstances are nothing like yours, he kind of sounds like you, right?
Yeah,
I mean, so I think that, to some degree I'm reflected.
Yeah.
Totally. And if not me, then definitely people in my orbit, I'm not, a buddy of mine said to me, oh, you wrote a book about yourself, a sober guy who surfs. And I'm definitely not Troy. He's a very, very different person from me in almost every way, except for the fact that we're, our recovery. But I find him very interesting, and a lot of the things that he thinks about, I think about, but I don't think that makes us, the same person.
Right. So you've been sober for your journey, took you through sobriety. What part of writing? Because I guess what I'd like to hang on is this creative outlet. I found a voice. We're doing it right now, right? I found a voice with Sober.Coffee. It's a creative outlet. We do some writing, we do some other stuff, but it really it's part of the new me. Did the old Will? Did he have a creative outlet? And how important do you think it is, as it relates to your sobriety, to try and empower your creative outlet, or fan that flame?
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic question, and the answer is no. The old Will did not. If you talk to me, pre-sobriety or even pre a year ago, this is new to me, and I can say that it's been awesome for my sobriety, because it's kind of put me in a different mindset when I attend meetings. I'm always obviously paying attention to meetings, but now I sit down. I like to go to a lot of different meetings. I like to mix it up and go to different rooms and hear different voices. And now I'm not doing it on purpose, but like I'm paying very close attention to people and their stories, and then I go home and I write down, what I heard. This guy talked about this, and he seems like this type of person. He's got this type of background, and it kind of puts me in a position to do a little bit of a deeper dive on what I originally fell in love with about AA, which was the stories,
right?
That people talk about.
You know what's so funny? I can relate to not the story, but the soundbite. I found myself for the first year of sobriety, year and a half. Glenn likes to, wink at me and smile, but I brought up a notepad in, and boy, when I hear a soundbite, and I'm way past the one day at a time, the let go, let God. I mean, just when somebody says something, and I'm like, wow, that was powerful. It's gotta go ink to pen to paper right away for me, because I can go back and sit on that statement, and I can write a whole blog, which is cathartic. And I do.
You do. So a key point that I just pulled out is it's probably good to pay attention at meetings. Yeah, sometimes we'll have to bring it down to the basics.
Yeah, right. I like that.
But my head wanders so much.
But there is so much that happens in a meeting.
Oh my gosh.
In a meeting environment, because there's just but you got to be open, and it sounds to me, Will, like that's where you are. You got to be open to what's going on in that room. It's only 60 minutes. It's amazing what you can pull out of that room.
So, Will, how long do you have sober now?
5.5 years.
Oh, it's awesome.
And what are a couple keys to you getting sober? What are a couple things that you did? What tools did you use?
Well, I'm a straight up AA guy, first of all. Right. That program worked like magic for me when nothing else had.
Love it.
So I'm not going to sit here and tell you something revolutionary that I thought of. I did what I was told to do.
Just dug in, surrendered.
Yeah, I did what I was told to do, which was a revolutionary concept to me, actually taking suggestions from other humans.
I absolutely love that.
So, I'm happy to talk about that, but it's not, again, it's not anything you guys don't talk about every day. I did the same stuff. I went to a lot of meetings, like I said before, before there was a fellowship, before there were the steps, before there was a program for me, before I could really comprehend what that even was, I think I got sober on the stories, because I listened to people, and first of all, it's the greatest show on earth. You hear the most amazing stories from the most interesting people. And they're all, if you listen to a qualification, they're all basically redemption stories, right? You've got, how I was, what happened, and how I am now. And they all sort of follow that arc. And I just, I heard myself in all of those, and that's how I realized that I might actually be in the right place, and this might actually work for me when other things hadn't. But, then once I got into the program, I was going to say I got a good sponsor, but really he got me, and, kind of started taking me around with him, and I got right into the steps pretty quickly. And I did, what I would call a solid once over, on the steps. We did them, kind of down and dirty and quick. I know a lot of people, spend a lot more time on them, but my sponsor said to me, you have the rest of your life. You can do this as many times as you want. I want to get you through this so you understand the program, have a spiritual experience, and, just kind of get a foundation under you. So we went through 12 steps in, probably 8 weeks. And then,
Man, I love that.
Well, what I love about it, tying back to the book, is the fact that it gives you a glimpse of, how do I say this? the book was relatable. You talked about the story of redemption, right? And you can hear those stories. That's the beautiful part of the program. You hear that there are examples of stories of redemption, and then to bring it back to the book level, the book is a story of redemption, right? But hearing what you just said about your own personal journey, it makes it even more relatable to me now. That this book, because the book brings the characters back, intertwines them back through AA. So there's AA references in there, 12-step references that made it relatable for me. I've never had a book that I could relate to based on the significance of sobriety in my life.
Yeah, the thing that I wanted to do with it, Mike, was that I wanted it to be a redemption story later in sobriety, because that's what was interesting to me at that point. I had already heard 1,000, 10,000 how I got sober stories, and they're all amazing and I love them. I'm not trying to minimize that. But what was interesting to me is, okay, I got sober, life got good. Now what? And a lot of guys that I know, if you stick around, you listen to people in the rooms, hit new bottoms in sobriety. Because they sort of drift away spiritually. They have for a number of different reasons. And that's what was interesting to me about this. So you're totally right. This is definitely an AA story, but it's kind of a level 2 story.
Sure. Right. Yep. Totally can relate to that. And because there are places in my life right now I know I need to work on. There are resentments I still hold on to. Like you, I did a 4-step. I did a 5th step, a 6th step, a 7th step, a 8th step, and a 9th step. And I still got stuff that I know I haven't processed right. And your characters in the book went through the same thing. I mean, they'd gone through the steps, at least assumingly, but there was still stuff they were holding on to. And that stuff could have got the characters in the book they were at a crossroad. They either could have dealt with the resentments, which they did. Well, I won't say. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. You'll have to read the book.
Spoiler alert.
Thanks,
Mikey.
But they had to process these resentments and their past. They had to come to terms with it. That's what made it so exciting because I read fiction books and it's like, yeah, but you're not sober. But your sobriety is not your number one goal in life, and that's what made it so exciting for me. Is just so relatable.
Yeah, I love that theme. That was one of the main ones that I wanted to get in there. Was if you don't clean that up, as you put it, it could kill you. And in the book, if he doesn't, process that correctly, he literally is not going to make it out alive.
Right.
So that was I wanted the stakes to be, they were high. In those terms, exactly.
Right. But in his case, maybe or maybe not, it would have been physical death. In my case, just emotional, spiritual death. If I don't deal with these things, and I'd like to say I worked the steps perfectly. Gosh, I didn't. I just didn't. I did the best I could at the time, but I'm working with a sponsor now who we constantly look. And if I say I'm having a problem, he says, what step should we be looking at? And he usually takes me to the step before the one I guess in. Because I'll guess, all right, maybe I have to put this person on the list. No, maybe you need to look at your character defects, Mike. Maybe we need to go back to 7. Maybe we need to go back to 6.
I love that.
Yeah, right? And yeah.
That's working the 12-step program.
That's working the 12-step program.
You know what that is? That's using the AA Big Book and the steps, as a reference manual, not just a read.
Right. So, hey, Will, how big is this vertical of fiction? Let's call it sober fiction, or how big is the vertical?
It's not that big. I'm starting.
Or are you starting it?
Yeah.
I'm starting to talk about it as addiction fiction, and I'm not going to claim to start it. I will claim to have coined the phrase addiction fiction.
I love that.
Nice.
I will take ownership of that because it's catchy as hell.
I love it.
I like it, and I've never heard anybody else use it. And if somebody else has used it before me, I apologize. But
I've never heard it.
I know. I love that addiction fiction. That's what I read. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a real big space. But when I got about 2/3 of the way through this process, I started to get really curious to try to find other novels with, main characters in sobriety and in recovery. And I've read 4 or 5 or 6, pretty good books. And what I actually started doing is writing book reviews of addiction fiction books.
Okay.
And I've been posting those on a website called the Sober Curator. So I'm trying to start up like a catalog. If people read my book and they like it and they're like, well, I want to read more fiction, because I think, first of all, it's enjoyable. It's good entertainment. Secondly, I think there's a lot of value, in seeing these ideas and themes play themselves out through characters. I mean, we see sober movies all the time, and we have emotional experiences, when we watch them, because we relate to the characters, right? I think that you can have the same type of experience in a novel. And so I think if people read my book and they like it, I want them to have like a list that they can go to.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Of some other books, yeah.
And this Sober Curator is live now, and people can go look at other fiction books, kind of review the reviews on other sober fiction books.
Exactly. Yes.
Addiction fiction.
Yeah. So the Sober Curator has, I don't know, maybe 20, I'm making up a number, maybe 20 different curators who work on their area of sober life.
Awesome.
And the owner of the site, this lady Elise Bryson, who's really cool, sober lady who runs the Sober Curator, she basically brought me on to own the addiction fiction category
genre,
for her.
right.
And I've been working with her and putting all the book reviews up there.
Okay, we can put a link to that in our resource room.
That would be amazing. Yeah,
that'd be awesome. Good. Love to do
awesome,
that.
Will.
And like I told you, I don't know if we were live, Mike, or before, but I picked the book up I took it to the cabin with me.
Cabin with no Wi-Fi.
No Wi-Fi, right? So I'm
That's
pretty
a real
much.
cabin.
I know. I'm pretty much stuck on whatever's paper. I had to go find newspapers and books and stuff to keep myself occupied. So I bring the book up thinking, all right, well that'll carve me out a couple days. Maybe a week. I'll read it in a week. That's, I don't know, 100 and a couple hundred pages, and I'm like, okay, this will take me some time. Day and a half. I didn't sleep that night. Literally, I slept like 2.5 hours because my wife finally woke up at like 3:30 in the morning. She goes, "What are you still doing awake?" I go, "I got to know what's going on here." And so I had to follow it through.
I can't wait to go through it.
Yeah, it was just a great read, and it really kept kept clipping along, and very relatable, and I'm really looking forward to the sequel. I see a sequel in this book because there's so many loose ends. I want to know about the relationships and his career, and it's just stuff I want to know. So you got to get working on that second book, Will.
Well, my second book's actually coming out later this year. Unfortunately, it's not a sequel. It's a whole different set of sober dudes. But my idea is that in my third book, I'm going to bring both sets of characters together because I also love those guys. And when I was writing the book, I spent so much time developing the characters. I kind of honestly got a little bit carried away. Mm-hmm. And like there are certain characters in that book that I'm just in love with, that my editor made me get rid of like 80% of the the stuff in there on them. Like his father, Joe. Yeah. Like I was like down a rabbit hole on that guy,
I know, right? Because he had this mystery life. Like I really wanted to get my arms around what particularly did he do, But because he had some connections. Anyway, I'm getting off there. It's just good stuff.
So, Will, it sounds like this is becoming part of your purpose, right?
I think so. Like quite by accident,
That's how this stuff works, though.
Yeah, right.
I think you're probably right about that.
Sometimes excellence, in fact, I think in sobriety, excellence in purpose is thrust upon you. Instead of us trying to create, maybe I should go.
Yeah, maybe I should be a rock star. All of a sudden, I'm a blog writer.
Many of the success stories I hear, it's by accident. It's not like they woke up one day with some strategic plan. It's almost like the universe thrusts upon us, sometimes quietly, sometimes loudly, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. But Will, I can definitely see this is part of your purpose.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I mean, I have a particular set of skills and a perspective that is, when you put them together, I think is unique. And I did it, for strictly entertainment purposes for people. This was not. It says on the back of the book, and I mean it. This is not intended to get people sober, but the feedback that I've gotten from people has been so heartwarming to me.
Yeah, it was helpful to my sobriety.
Really? Yeah. That's great to hear.
Yeah. Wait. If I could jump in, Will, and just, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. So many writings today and so much literature and content out there today is trying to get people sober. What I'm hearing you say, and I'm looking forward to reading the book, I'm taking it from Mikey, is that your writings entertains and engages somebody just to entertain, right?
Exactly. That's the intention of it. This is not a self-help book. There's tons of good how to get sober books out there. There's one in particular that I like.
like that has a special 164 pages in it. Or?
Exactly. But there's some other ones too that people like. And there's, I don't know how many. There's got to be thousands of good memoirs, out there that you can read that are people's sober stories. This is not that. This is for fun. This is for entertainment. You'll read it. You'll relate to it. If you're, in recovery or love somebody who is, that was the point of it.
Yeah. But if you're willing, there's also lessons in here.
Totally. And, even, like I was saying about the movies, I have, emotional reactions to characters all the time. I was watching a Netflix film the other night it was a sober story about this woman. I think it's called To Leslie. It's got Mark Maron in it, who's a sober guy. And he's in your line of work, Mark Maron. And I watched the movie the night before, and I was sitting on my couch crying, and I didn't finish it. And I woke up in the morning, I was on the treadmill, watching the rest of it, and I'm crying my eyes out on the treadmill. I had to stop and get off. I was going to break my neck. But that's the kind of response that we have, when we, relate very deeply to characters. And, I don't do that. I do this.
Right.
So that's what I'm going for here.
Well, keep doing it. And you'll come back on when you write when you publish your second book. We'll get you back on. And because I'm looking now, you got me hooked, because I'm ready for the third book where the characters come together. So, Will, it's been great. Any closing thoughts you'd like to leave with the listeners?
I don't think so. I'm very happy that you guys have me on. I enjoy your podcast. I enjoy listening to it myself, and it's a really exciting for me to join you.
Best place to get the book is on Amazon.
That's where everybody seems to get it. Yeah,
okay.
If you look at
we'll put a link in our resource room for sure.
And then Will, how do folks find you on that thing called social media?
I do have Facebook, and I'm on Twitter. I'm doing less of that lately, but it is on there, and unfortunately I don't have my exact handles.
I'll get them from you. I'll throw them in the resource room.
Cool.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Well, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it. Killing Hurt is the name of the book. It's good stuff. Will Thatcher.
It's awesome. Will, thank you so much for jumping in, man.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you again.
Best wishes.
Thank you, man.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.